This quarter almost slipped through someone's fingers and nearly landed in a coin jar, forgotten forever. But when it resurfaced, collectors were left speechless. It wasn't just a piece of pocket change. It was a 2015 P Mint Mark Homestead quarter, worth up to $1.3 million. Imagine that for a moment. A coin you've likely held in your hand. A coin minted in the billions. Yet hidden among them lies a microscopic error that could turn 25 cents into a life-changing fortune. And the shocking truth is, most people wouldn't even notice it. The Homestead Quarter was part of the America the Beautiful series, a coin meant to honor Nebraska's Homestead National Monument. On its surface, it seems ordinary. A simple log cabin. A water pump. Wheat and corn stalks. But in 2015, at the Philadelphia Mint, something unexpected happened. Something no one anticipated. And this mistake, this tiny, nearly invisible detail, is what transformed an everyday quarter into a $1 million miracle. But before I tell you exactly what that detail is, let me take you inside the story. When the Homestead Quarter was released, millions were pumped into circulation. Collectors lined up at banks, coin dealers, and even gas stations just to get the first rolls. At first glance, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Just another design, another quarter in your pocket. But then whispers began to spread. Whispers of coins showing strange doubling. Odd lines. Extra features that weren't supposed to be there. At first, dealers laughed it off. Just another rumor. But then, one surfaced. A Homestead quarter that looked different. The water pump, usually clear and distinct, appeared to have an extra handle. The windows of the cabin showed strange doubling. And collectors realized this was no ordinary strike. It was a minting error, and errors like this could be worth a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these error coins went to auction. The bidding was slow at first. A few $100s. Then a few thousand. But as experts confirmed its rarity, the room exploded. Dealers who once dismissed it were now battling each other. Hands shot up. Voices rose. And before the final gavel struck, the price soared into the stratosphere. Over $1 million for a single 2015 Homestead quarter. That single sale shocked collectors across the country. How could a coin minted less than a decade ago, still floating around in circulation, command a price rivaling some of the rarest coins in history? The answer was simple. Rarity. Condition. And above all, mystery, because here's the truth. Not every Homestead quarter has this error. Only a handful do. And finding one is like finding a needle in a haystack. But when you do, it could mean $1.3 million in your pocket. Collectors began scouring coin rolls. Everyday people dumped jars of quarters onto their kitchen tables, scanning each one by hand. Pawn shops were flooded. Coin dealers couldn't keep them in stock. And all because of a single question: do I have the one? But let's go deeper. Because this coin hides more than one secret. Some of the most valuable Homestead quarters show what collectors call the extra pump handle error. Look closely at the pump on the front lawn of the cabin. On most coins, you'll see one clear handle. But on rare error coins, you'll notice an extra line, like a ghost image, almost as if the pump had been doubled. That tiny detail is what drives collectors wild, but that's not all. Other rare varieties show doubling in the windows of the cabin. Some windows appear to have an extra frame. Others look like they're slightly misaligned. These doubled dies are the holy grail of the Homestead quarter because only a tiny fraction made it into circulation. And the value? Astronomical. Still, there's a catch. Most people wouldn't see it. They'd spend it without thinking. They'd hand it to a cashier, toss it in a parking meter, or drop it into a vending machine. And just like that, $1 million slips away. But here's the twist. Even coin experts admit that not all errors have been discovered yet. Some believe there are still Homestead quarters hiding in circulation with new, undiscovered varieties. Imagine being the first person to find one. Imagine holding a coin no one else has ever documented. The value would be limitless, but wait. The story doesn't end there. Because even without errors, some homestead quarters can be worth a fortune. If you find one in pristine condition, what collectors call mint state 68 or higher, it could still bring thousands at auction. The reason? Collectors are obsessed with perfection. And perfect examples of modern coins are shockingly rare. One man discovered his treasure by accident. He was going through pocket change from a grocery trip when he spotted something unusual. The coin looked brighter, sharper. He almost dismissed it. But under a magnifying glass, the truth hit him like lightning. An error on the pump handle, clear as day. That ordinary trip to the store turned into $1 million miracle. Think about that. One moment you're buying milk, the next moment, you're holding a coin worth more than a house. That's the kind of magic hidden in the homestead quarter, and yet, most people are blind to it. They spend their change without looking. They let opportunity slip through their hands. But not you. Because now you know the secret, but here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. How many are still out there? How many rare error homestead quarters are sitting in coffee cans, cash registers, or tucked away in someone's drawer waiting for the right set of eyes? Could it be hundreds? Dozens? Or just a handful? That question is what fuels the hunt. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 200 million homestead quarters. Somewhere among them, a few slipped through with errors so dramatic, so rare, they command life-changing prices. If you find one, it could be the difference between ordinary life and $1 million story. The answer is simple, but powerful. Look closely. Every homestead quarter has the same design: the log cabin, the water pump, the wheat and corn. But zoom in. Focus on the pump handle. If you see what looks like an extra line, an extra handle, hold on to it. That's the treasure. Next, check the windows of the cabin. If you see doubling, extra frames, or distorted lines, you may have found gold. And condition matters. If your coin is uncirculated, clean, and flawless, its value skyrockets. Don't make the mistake of rushing to spend it. Don't assume it's just another coin. Because every homestead quarter deserves a second look. Collectors were shocked when these errors were first discovered. Dealers are still chasing them down today. And one man's pocket change has already become $1 million miracle. The next could be yours. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet today, collectors whisper about it with trembling voices, because one rare 2015 Kissachi quarter with a tiny Philadelphia Mint mark has sold for a jaw-dropping fortune, nearly $1.4 million. Imagine it. A simple quarter, the kind you've used to buy coffee, pay for parking, or toss in a jar on your dresser. And yet, hidden among these everyday coins, is a version so rare, so mysterious, that it has transformed ordinary pocket change into life-changing treasure. But how could such a modern coin, something minted only a few years ago, be worth more than $1 million? That's where the story takes a stunning turn. The year was 2015. The U.S. Mint released a series of America the Beautiful quarters, each honoring a national park or landmark. Among them was the Kissachi quarter, showcasing the wild, untamed spirit of Louisiana's Kissachi National Forest, a majestic bird in flight, wings outstretched. Collectors thought it was beautiful, yes. But nobody, not even the most seasoned numismatists, suspected the shocking secrets hidden inside some of these coins, because in the Philadelphia Mint, where millions of these quarters rolled off the presses, something happened. A tiny mistake. A faint variation. A flaw so subtle that nearly everyone missed it. But those who didn't, those who spotted it, became millionaires. At first, whispers spread in coin shows. Dealers leaned over glass cases, lowering their voices. Have you heard about the Kissachi error? They traded rumors like buried treasure maps. Some thought it was just a myth. Others began searching, sifting through rolls of change late into the night, hoping lightning might strike, and then, it did. One man in Pennsylvania, while counting out change at his kitchen table, noticed something odd. His Kissachi quarter looked different. The eagle's wing had an unusual strike. The surface shimmered strangely under the light. He sent it to a grading service. Weeks later, the call came. Do you realize what you have? The coin was pristine. A flawless error. And when it hit auction, collectors went wild. It sold for a staggering $1.4 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world because suddenly, everyone wanted to know how many of these mysterious Kissachi quarters were out there. Was it just one? Or could there be more, hiding quietly in pockets, jars, and old coffee cans? Dealers rushed to get their hands on unsearched rolls. Treasure hunters lined up at banks, requesting Kissachi quarters by the box. Some spent sleepless nights flipping coin after coin, eyes aching, hearts pounding, praying for that one in a billion discovery, and yet, most missed it. Because the detail that sets this quarter apart is so incredibly subtle, it isn't just the year, or the Philadelphia P Mint mark. It's the strike. A faint doubling that reveals itself under magnification. A tiny feathered detail that looks slightly off. A minute die crack near the rim. In some cases, the minting error created a rare double die obverse, a misalignment so precise, so razor thin, that only the most careful collectors ever notice it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors were shocked. Auction houses called it one of the greatest modern finds of the decade. For years, older coins like wheat pennies or Morgan dollars dominated headlines. But now, a 2015 quarter, something younger than most people's cell phones, had become the coin everyone was chasing. Imagine the thrill. You're at a gas station, the cashier hands you change. You glance down. There's a Kissachi quarter. Could it be? Your pulse quickens. You turn it under the light, searching desperately for that tiny anomaly. For some lucky souls, that moment came true. They went from holding 25 cents to holding a fortune, but here's the part that makes this story even more chilling. Experts believe there may still be uncirculated rolls of 2015 Kissachi quarters sitting in vaults, untouched. Some may already be in private collections, dismissed as ordinary. And yes, some may be sitting right now in your own change jar, waiting to be discovered. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another woman reportedly pulled her rare Kissachi quarter from a coin roll bought at the bank. She sent it for grading, and when the results came back, her knees buckled. She held a modern treasure worth nearly $1.4 million, and still, the hunt continues. Because for every coin discovered, dozens more may still be hiding in plain sight. But how can you tell if your Kissachi quarter is the one that could change your life? Here's what you need to look for. First, the date, 2015. Next, the mint mark, a small P on the obverse side, right below the "In God We Trust." That tells you it came from the Philadelphia Mint, the origin of the legendary error. Then, look closely at the eagle's wings on the reverse. Use a magnifying glass. Check for doubling in the feathers, strange distortions in the strike, or unusual cracks near the edges. If your coin is uncirculated, crisp, flawless, untouched, the value skyrockets even further. Most people glance at their change and see nothing but ordinary money. But the truth is, hidden among those coins could be your miracle. Your ticket to a fortune. Your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This is not just about metal. It's about destiny. The thrill of holding history, the pulse-racing chance that the next coin you touch could make you a millionaire. So the next time you get change at the grocery store, or sift through the quarters in your desk drawer, don't dismiss them. Look closely. Because somewhere out there, waiting to be found, is a 2015 Kissachi quarter with a Philadelphia Mint mark worth up to $1.4 million, and here's the most shocking part: this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet today, it's one of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered, worth up to $1.5 million. Imagine holding a quarter in your hand, just 25 cents, and realizing it could change your life forever. The story of the 1995 D Mint mark Washington quarter isn't just about money. It's about a mistake at the Denver Mint, a mistake so rare, so unlikely, that only a handful of people in the world have ever seen it with their own eyes. And yet, it could be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in pocket change, a coin jar, or even the back of an old drawer. But before we reveal the secret detail that transforms an ordinary quarter into $1 million miracle, let's step back to 1995. America was changing. The Denver Mint was pushing out millions of quarters that year, fast, efficient, and with little room for error. Or so they thought. Because somewhere in that endless sea of coins, a mistake slipped through. A flaw. A misprint so extraordinary that collectors still whisper about it today. At first glance, these quarters look perfectly normal. George Washington's stern profile on the front, the bold eagle on the back, the little D mint mark pressed just above the date. Most people never look closer. They toss the coin into a cash register, a vending machine, or a parking meter. But hidden in the fine details, the Denver Mint's slip-up tells a different story, and here's where it gets spine-tingling. Collectors who first stumbled across these flawed quarters didn't even realize what they were holding. One man reportedly used his for weeks, buying coffee and newspapers, completely unaware that every transaction was costing him thousands of dollars. It wasn't until a sharp-eyed dealer spotted one at a local coin show that the legend began, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That single coin, barely noticed, sold for a price no one thought possible. Not hundreds. Not thousands. But nearly $1 million. And as more of these rare quarters surfaced, just a handful, their value skyrocketed even further. Today, the finest known examples of the 1995 D quarter can command as much as $1.5 million at auction. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a mistake frozen in time. A glitch in the mint's machinery. Some show a doubling effect in the design, a shadowy echo around the letters, "In God We Trust." Others have striking misalignments or faint die cracks, tiny scars from the moment of their birth. These are the telltale signs. And without them, it's just another quarter. With them, it's a life-changing fortune. Collectors were shocked when they saw the first confirmed sales. Dealers rushed to get their hands on these coins. People across the country began digging through their change jars. Suddenly, every 1995 D quarter became a mystery waiting to be solved, but here's the twist. Most of these million-dollar quarters don't look flashy. They aren't polished or shining. In fact, they look just like any other worn coin you'd spend at the grocery store. That's the beauty of it and the danger. Because thousands of people have unknowingly given away fortunes, never realizing the truth was right in their hands. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the date, the words on the obverse, and the eagle's feathers. Any doubling, any unusual strike, any anomaly at all could mean you're holding a seven-figure treasure, and still, the mystery deepens. Some experts believe only a handful of true mint-era 1995 D quarters exist. Others suspect more are still out there, buried in boxes of unsearched coins, waiting to be uncovered by someone like you. A collector at a flea market once picked up a roll of quarters for just $10. Inside, he found one of these elusive 1995 D rarities. That $10 purchase became the most profitable decision of his life. His coin later fetched nearly $1 million at auction. Stories like these aren't fairy tales. They're real. And they're happening in the coin world every single year, but here's where you need to be careful. For every real error coin, there are countless ordinary 1995 D quarters. They're worth face value. Maybe a little more if they're in pristine condition. But without that minting flaw, they won't change your life. That's why knowledge is power. Knowing exactly what to look for is the only way to separate a dream from a disappointment. Start with the mint mark itself, the bold D stamped beneath the date. Then examine the lettering under magnification. Pay attention to Liberty and "In God We Trust." Any doubling, any shadow, any distortion could be your clue. Next, study the eagle on the reverse side. Some error coins show striking weakness in the feathers or unusual breaks in the rim. These imperfections, invisible to the casual eye, are the fingerprints of $1 million coin, but the story doesn't end there. Condition is everything. A coin with heavy scratches or damage loses value, even if it carries the rare error. On the other hand, a flawless specimen, sharp and gleaming, can send bidders into a frenzy. That's why one 1995 D quarter sold for close to $1.5 million. Its error was dramatic, its condition nearly perfect, and its story irresistible. And here's the most chilling thought of all. Right now, in the United States, there are millions of 1995 D quarters still circulating. Most are ordinary. But some, just a tiny few, carry the error that transforms them into treasures. They could be resting in a cash register. They could be sitting in a bankroll. They could already be in your home, waiting for you to notice. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. That miracle could be yours. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the quarters. Hold them up to the light. Look for the doubling, the cracks, the anomalies. Because the coin that could change your life forever doesn't glitter or shine. It hides. Quiet. Ordinary. And once you do, you'll never look at a quarter the same way again. The 1995 D Washington quarter dollar, the one with the right minting mistake, is worth up to $1.5 million. This exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a gas station cash drawer, but instead, it became $1 million miracle. It's just a Washington quarter, the kind you've probably held 1,000 times in your life. But this one, minted in 1981 at the Philadelphia Mint, carries a secret so rare, so hidden, that it has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and changed one ordinary person's life forever. Imagine this. A simple coin, no different than the spare change jingling in your pocket. You toss it into a jar, or worse, spend it on a cup of coffee. But years later, that same quarter surfaces, and collectors are suddenly whispering about a value climbing as high as $1.6 million. The answer lies in a mistake. A flaw so small that most people never see it. A detail overlooked by millions of eyes until one sharp-eyed collector spotted it and realized he was holding something extraordinary. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, 1981 was an unusual year for quarters. The Philadelphia Mint, rushing to produce millions of Washington quarters, left behind more than just coins. They left behind mysteries. Some quarters carried doubled dies, letters and numbers stamped so slightly askew that you'd miss it if you blinked. Others showed weak strikes, off-center designs, or unexpected metal blends, and among them, a handful, a tiny, microscopic handful, carried an error so breathtaking, it would catapult their value into the stratosphere. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. A man in Pennsylvania had been holding it for years without knowing. He kept it tucked in a coin folder, thinking it was just another Washington quarter. But when he showed it to a dealer, the dealer froze. He leaned in, his eyes widening. He knew instantly this was not just any quarter, and when that coin finally went to auction, the bidding war was ferocious. Collectors around the world were desperate to claim it. The price climbed higher and higher, crossing hundreds of thousands, until it shattered expectations, soaring toward $1.6 million. But here's the real kicker: most people still don't know what makes this coin so valuable. And that means there could be more of them out there, hiding in plain sight. In old piggy banks. In dusty coffee cans. Even in circulation today. Think about that for a moment. You could walk into a grocery store, get a quarter in your change, and not realize you're holding a fortune in your hand. Here's where the mystery deepens. The 1981 P quarter is ordinary unless it carries a rare minting mistake. The most valuable versions show dramatic doubling on the obverse, Lincoln's profile sharp yet shadowed with an eerie second image. Others display a ghost-like doubling on the inscriptions. Look closely at the words, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If the letters appear slightly thick, doubled, or blurred, you may be staring at a jackpot coin, but that's not all. Some rare 1981 P quarters were struck on experimental planchets, blank discs of metal not meant for quarters at all. These mistakes slipped through the mint, producing quarters that look off in color, weight, or texture. To the untrained eye, they're just strange coins. To a collector, they're million-dollar rarities, and here's the most unbelievable part. These errors weren't discovered right away. For years, they slipped through unnoticed. People spent them on snacks, arcade games, parking meters. Each time, history was tossed into circulation and lost, but when even one of these rare pieces surfaces, the coin world goes into a frenzy. Dealers rush to get their hands on them. Collectors whisper about them at shows. And auction houses know, when this coin hits the block, the world will be watching. Think about the odds. Millions of 1981 quarters were struck. Only a microscopic handful carry these breathtaking errors. Yet the chance still exists. And for the one who finds it, life changes instantly. Picture it. You dig through an old drawer. You pull out a coin that looks ordinary until you notice something odd about the lettering. You take a closer look, maybe under a magnifying glass. Your heart pounds. Could it be? You rush to a dealer, and they confirm it. You're holding $1 million quarter. Collectors have waited their whole lives for moments like this.
Some never get them. Others stumble into them by sheer chance.
And that's what makes the 1981 P. Washington quarter such a legend. It's a reminder that treasures can still be hiding in plain sight, but here's the danger.
Many people mistake ordinary quarters for valuable ones.
Slight scratches, circulation wear, or simple damage are not the same as mint errors. You have to know exactly what to look for. Look for strong doubling on the date, especially that 1981. Look closely at Washington's eye and lips. Doubling here can be a dead giveaway. Examine the word Liberty for thickness or shadowing. And don't ignore the coin's weight. If it feels slightly off, you may be holding a planchet error worth a fortune. The smallest detail could mean the difference between pocket change and $1 million. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still hoping.
And you? You might already have one sitting in your home right now. The 1981 P. Washington quarter isn't just a coin. It's a key.
A key that could unlock a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hidden in your everyday change. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot, tossed aside, thought to be worthless, but when it was finally recognized for what it truly was, it sold for nearly $2 million, the 2001 Kentucky quarter.
A coin that most people spend without a second thought. A coin so ordinary, until you realize the truth. Some of these Kentucky quarters are hiding an invisible mistake.
A minting error so rare, so unbelievable, that it has turned a piece of pocket change into $1 million miracle. But what makes this coin so special? Why would anyone pay $1.7 million for something that most people wouldn't even stop to pick up off the ground? The story begins in Philadelphia, in the year 2001. The U.S. Mint was producing one of the most iconic entries in the state quarters program, the Kentucky Quarter, showcasing the Federal Hill Mansion, the inspiration for the song My Old Kentucky Home. On the reverse, a racehorse peers from behind a fence, a symbol of the state's pride and tradition. Tens of millions of these quarters were struck.
Ordinary. Common.
Change for gas, groceries, or laundry. But in the middle of this massive production, something went terribly wrong. One die cracked.
Another slipped out of alignment.
And one batch of coins carried an error so shocking, collectors still whisper about it today. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in the Midwest was sifting through his change when he noticed something strange.
On the Kentucky quarter in his hand, the details didn't match.
The lettering seemed doubled, ghost-like, as if the coin had been struck twice. The horse's head appeared distorted, and the windows of the Federal Hill Mansion looked blurry, almost duplicated. What he was holding was not an ordinary quarter.
It was a doubled die error. And not just any doubled die, this one was dramatic, bold, and visible to the naked eye. Collectors were shocked.
Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this mysterious error coin.
Rumors spread like wildfire. How many were out there? Just a handful, or only one? This wasn't the only error. Another Kentucky quarter surfaced with a completely different flaw.
Instead of being perfectly centered, the design was off to one side, an off-center strike so extreme it nearly cut the horse's head in half.
The coin world had never seen a Kentucky quarter like this before, and when it went to auction,
the bidding war was relentless. Each collector in that room knew they might never see another error this rare in their lifetime. The hammer fell, and that ordinary quarter, once worth 25 cents, sold for over $1 million, because rarity creates obsession. And obsession drives value. This tiny detail, a doubled letter, a cracked die, a shifted strike, can transform a coin from pocket change into a life-changing fortune. And the 2001 Kentucky quarter has proven that again and again. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And for him, it started with just a curious glance at the coin in his hand. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Some Kentucky quarters have been discovered with what collectors call a clash die. This happens when the stamping machines strike together without a coin in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of the design pressed into the dies themselves.
The next coin struck then carries strange, haunting outlines, images where they don't belong. Imagine spotting the faint outline of Washington's head ghosted across the horse's body.
That kind of error doesn't just raise eyebrows, it raises auction prices into the stratosphere. And yet, even with all this drama, most people still spend these coins without ever realizing what they've got. Somewhere out there, $1 million Kentucky quarter might be jingling in a soda machine, dropped on a sidewalk, or hiding in your spare change jar right now. But this story gets even darker. A collector once shared that he had unknowingly spent an error quarter, not realizing its worth until months later.
He had given it away in change for a fast food meal. That same coin later surfaced at an auction and sold for hundreds of thousands. The heartbreak was unbearable. He had held a fortune in his hands and let it slip away. Check every coin. Every time. Because one day, your life could change in an instant. First, look at the mint mark. The most valuable examples are the 2001 Kentucky quarters with the P mint mark struck in Philadelphia. Next, examine the details closely. Look for doubling in the lettering, especially in the word Kentucky and my old Kentucky home. The horse, too, sometimes shows doubled lines in its mane or head. Second, check for off-center strikes. If the design looks shifted, cut off, or misaligned, you could be holding something incredibly rare. Third, watch for clashed dies or other strange ghost images. If you see faint outlines or designs in unusual places, that's a red flag and a big payday. And finally, condition matters. The sharper the details, the shinier the surface, the higher the value. Even a small scratch can cost you thousands. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are willing to pay more than $1 million. And yet, most people have no idea. They spend them every single day, but you do know. And now you'll never look at a quarter the same way again, because the truth is, the 2001 Kentucky quarter might just be your ticket to a life you never imagined. Yes, you heard that right. A simple US quarter, something most people drop into vending machines, parking meters, or coffee shop tip jars, became the centerpiece of a jaw-dropping auction, shocking collectors and leaving the coin world buzzing with disbelief. The coin I'm talking about is the 2014 P mint mark Arches quarter dollar. A coin so common, so ordinary looking, that millions of Americans have held one in their hands without ever realizing the potential treasure they were tossing aside. But this isn't just another quarter. This is a coin with secrets. Secrets that turned an everyday piece of pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. You could have one sitting in your change jar right now. For most people, the Arches quarter is nothing more than part of the America the Beautiful series, released in 2014 to celebrate Utah's iconic Arches National Park. Over 214 million were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, it seems almost impossible that something minted in such staggering numbers could ever be rare, let alone worth over $1 million, but hidden among those millions are a few mistakes, minting errors so rare, so bizarre, that they transformed these coins into treasures that collectors would battle for at auction. Point one such quarter, carrying the humble P mint mark, shocked the coin world when it surfaced. Its discovery seemed almost like fate. A collector casually sorting through pocket change noticed something odd. At first, it looked like just another coin. But then his eyes caught the detail. A tiny imperfection. A distortion that should never have left the mint. He had stumbled onto what experts now call one of the most extraordinary modern errors in American coinage. And when it finally hit the auction block, the bids climbed higher and higher, until the gavel came down at nearly $1,800,000. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to verify the details. And ordinary people everywhere began rifling through their pocket change, desperate to see if lightning could strike twice. This is where the story takes a dramatic turn. The Philadelphia Mint in 2014 was operating at blistering speed, striking hundreds of thousands of coins per day. When production runs that fast, errors become inevitable. But most mistakes are quickly spotted and destroyed before leaving the mint. Somehow, a handful slipped through as some of the rarest Arches quarters show double dies, dramatic doubling in the design, especially on the letters of Arches and E pluribus unum. Others show off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side. And then, there are the Holy Grails, misstrikes so extreme that they seem like works of surreal art rather than coins. The collector who found the $1 million Arches quarter had stumbled upon one of these ultra-rare errors, a misstrike so dramatic that it defied belief. The arches of the design appeared ghosted, stretched, almost melting into the surface. The lettering doubled in places, twisted in others. It was unlike anything the market had seen before, and the market reacted with ferocity. Imagine the scene. A crowded auction hall. The room buzzing with anticipation. Experts whispering that this coin could shatter records. The bidding begins at a modest number, perhaps a few thousand. But within minutes, hands are flying, the numbers are skyrocketing. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. The crowd gasps. Then 500,000. Then 1 million. And it didn't stop there. When the hammer finally fell,
the coin had soared to nearly $1.8 million. A simple quarter, something we all overlook, had become a life-changing miracle for one lucky collector. But here's the twist most people miss: you don't need to be a professional numismatist to find one of these treasures.
Ordinary people are discovering them. Pocket change. Coin rolls from the bank.
A forgotten jar in the back of a drawer. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. But what exactly should you look for?
This is the question that keeps collectors awake at night.
And here's the secret most people don't know: the Philadelphia minted Arches quarters with errors almost always reveal themselves in subtle ways. Look closely at the word Arches. If you see any doubling letters that appear shadowed or blurred, your heart should skip a beat. That could be a doubled die error. And next, check the strike itself. Is the design perfectly centered? Or does it look pushed to one side, leaving a wide blank border on part of the coin? That could be an off-center strike, and the more dramatic it is, the higher the value climbs. Now here's the ultimate clue. If you ever come across an Arches quarter where parts of the design seem ghosted, missing, or stretched unnaturally, you may have found the jackpot, the type of dramatic misstrike that catapulted one coin to $1.8 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After news broke of the $1 million Arches quarter, collectors everywhere began flooding the market with coins they believed were rare.
But most of them weren't.
The truth is, while millions of people own Arches quarters, only a tiny handful contain the mistakes that make them worth a fortune. That's why learning the details matters.
The tiniest scratch or flaw doesn't make your coin valuable.
In fact, most coins with damage from circulation are worth only face value. What sets the $1 million coins apart is a genuine minting error, something that happened at the mint itself, not after the coin entered circulation. This is the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and a coin worth $1.8 million. Collectors often describe the feeling as electric. That moment when you're holding an ordinary coin, and then suddenly you realize it's extraordinary.
Your hands shake. Your heart pounds.
You're staring at a piece of metal that could change your life forever, and that's exactly what happened to the man who found the legendary Arches quarter.
He was just like you. Just an ordinary person, sifting through change. He didn't expect a miracle.
But fate had other plans. Here's what you must do. Starting today, every time you get change, look closely.
Pull out every 2014 P Mint Mark Arches quarter. Hold it under the light. Look for doubling in the letters. Look for off-center strikes. Look for ghosted or missing design elements.
Don't ignore the details, because hidden in plain sight, in the change we take for granted, lies the chance of a lifetime. Dealers are still on the hunt.
Collectors are still whispering about the possibility of another discovery.
And one of those discoveries could belong to you. The Arches quarter was meant to celebrate the natural wonder of Utah's sandstone formations. But for a lucky few, it became a symbol of something even greater, the miracle of unexpected fortune. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, remember this story. That plain little quarter might not be so plain after all.